Hey guys, today I'll show you a science fiction thriller TV series named Dimension 404 Season 1. Spoilers ahead, watch out and take care. The drama explores the wonders and terrors of our digital age, from outrageous horror comedy to mind-bending action-adventure. The first story begins with a music blogger, Adam, going on a blind date at a restaurant. The girl across from him, Becky, starts grilling him like she's a job interviewer. After the interrogation, she clearly loses interest in the man's hormones. The awkward small talk ends with Becky showing him the door. Back home, a dejected Adam tells his roommate, Chubby, that he'll die alone. He's already met half the women in town without finding the one with red-streaked hair and a bird tattoo. Chubby advises him not to rely on street dates, but to try online dating. He suggests a matchmaking app that uses big data to find his perfect match. Within 2 miles, there are 413 beautiful girls waiting. Adam, skeptical at first, gets curious, but he wonders why Chubby is on this app since he has had a girlfriend. Chubby quickly clarifies that he is just trying to help him out and even posted a singles ad for him. Despite initial reluctance, Adam warms up to the idea. Soon, the app finds a 100% match. A girl named Amanda, a 25-year-old medical student who loves parties and shares his taste in music. Chubby is thrilled, saying that the girl ticks all his boxes, but Adam is still skeptical, wondering if she has the bird tattoo. Out of nowhere, Amanda asks him out. Reluctantly, he agrees under Chubby's relentless pressure. At the bar, Adam is stunned. Amanda not only has red-streaked hair, but orders his favorite beer, loves the same song, and, most importantly, reveals her bird tattoo. She's the girl of his dreams. The date goes incredibly well, with a sense of instant connection. They tongue massage each other passionately, and 2 months fly by. Adam is on cloud 9, convinced Amanda is his soulmate. But Chubby, looking worried, tells him to take it slow to avoid getting hurt. Ignoring the advice, Adam immediately proposes. But instead of joy, Amanda looks irritated and tells him to leave. Adam, trying to lighten the mood, jokes about celebrating their first argument, but Amanda gets angrier and tells him to get lost with his smelly butt. As Adam reaches the door, hoping for a last chance, Amanda taps his profile picture on her phone. A big red X appears. Suddenly, 2 burly men burst in, put a sack over Adam's head, and say they're taking him to the recycling bin. Luckily, Adam's in good shape and manages to fight them off. He rushes home in Tesla speed, panicked, and collapses into Chubby's greasy arms, recounting the night's events. Chubby comforts him using his chubby muscles, but secretly pulls out a Chubby stun gun and knocks him out, whispering that target has been secured. When Adam wakes up, he finds himself tied to a chair, facing none other than Becky. She starts grilling him with a relationship questionnaire. Adam, utterly confused, has no idea what's happening. After filling out the form for him, Becky asks if he had read the briefing. She then shows him a video. It turns out Adam's perfect match wasn't luck, it was by design. He is actually a clone created by the matchmaking company HQ, tailored by dating experts for clients. His genes, personality, and memories were all crafted to order. Simply put, Adam was custom-made for Amanda. If their relationship fails, the company would recycle him. He could either work for the company for life, cleaning or maintaining cloning machines, or be recycled as raw material for future clones. Adam is shocked, unable to believe that he was just a clone, not a music blogger. To his greater surprise, there are 4 more guys who look exactly like him. The overly friendly Adam number 4 introduces everyone that this is Adam number 1, created after 3 months with Amanda. Adam number 2 then came next, then Adam number 3. Adam learns that he is number 5. All of them are failed attempts to satisfy Amanda, each with unique traits. Learning that Adam number 5 was dumped for professing love, they all scoff but eagerly ask for updates on Amanda, showing genuine emotions. After all, they were designed to love her. After that, the Adams lead a monotonous life. Wake up, eat, clean windows, draw birds, care for the cloning machines, and watch Becky evaluate new clones day in and day out. Until the day Adam number 6 is 99% complete. Adam number 5 accidentally bumps into Becky, swiping her work badge while doing so. He mispronounces a word while apologizing. He sneaks into the operations room and checks Adam number 6's profile, a lawyer who's smarter, taller, better in bed, less clingy, and doesn't like rock music. Nothing like him. Feeling down, Adam number 5 resumes his daily chores, but one day he oversleeps while the other clones work. Meanwhile, at the restaurant, Adam number 6, aka Adam number 5 in disguise, undergoes Becky's evaluation, but she catches on to the pronunciation mistake from earlier. Realizing the jig is up, he tries to flee but gets caught and knocked out by Chubby. When he wakes up, he's facing the company's CEO. Impressed by Adam's bold escape, the CEO shares that he once had Amanda of his own. After she died, he realized how much he loved her, leading him to create the company to help people find true love. He offers Adam two choices, either to return to his bleak life or be recycled into a new clone. Determined to keep loving Amanda, Adam chooses to be remade as part of Adam number 7. Before the procedure, Chubby visits him to say goodbye. Feeling a bit sentimental, Chubby shares a beer and knocks him out anyway. In the operations room, Chubby slaps Adam awake to show him a video of Amanda's story. It shows that Amanda had dated her first love for 4 years, believing he was the one, only for him to cheat on her. Heartbroken and lonely, she joined the matchmaking service hoping to find a perfect partner. Asked what qualities she wanted, she replied she didn't know, maybe loyalty, honesty, and kindness. Chubby reassures Adam that even if he's not with her anymore, he's still what she wanted at first. Adam tears up, feeling a sense of realization. Back at the restaurant, the same song plays again and everyone complains they're sick of it. Adam number 5 still finds it beautiful and gives a motivational speech, urging everyone not to let past relationships define them. This catches the attention of the staff and once again he gets knocked out. But the clones' spirits are fired up and a rebellion begins. In the monitoring room, the CEO dispatches a riot squad. The alarm blares as a fight breaks out, shields and batons versus trays and forks. The CEO fans the flames, saying independent thought and free will are forbidden while his mission is to love and obey. But the riot squad gets overrun. The clones storm the monitoring room, dragging the CEO out. Becky hides under a desk, nervously looking for a new job. Asked why she left her last company, she simply replies it's due to management change. The CEO gets thrown into the recycling furnace, just as a company promo shows how recycling looks like a fairy tale transformation. Then he's gone, and the clones are free. 2 months later, Adam number 5 wakes up in bed. While browsing a record stand, he bumps into Amanda. They both reach for the same record and chat briefly. Adam is now in a band, and Amanda is interning. Their lives are looking up. Amanda suggests meeting up again, and Adam happily agrees, giving her the record. The final shot reveals an ad. Adam's band is made up of Adams number 1 to number 5 and Chubby. The second story begins with Uncle Dusty, a free-spirited, unconventional guy. He's driving, blasting old tunes, and enjoying a chicken wrap when some mustard squirts onto his shirt. Unfazed, he licks it off, drumming on the steering wheel to the beat. 2 girls passing by film him and mock him openly, but Uncle Dusty doesn't care. His niece, Chloe, arrives. They've planned to watch a horror movie tonight. On the way to the cinema, Chloe wants to listen to some lively kids' show music, but Uncle Dusty insists on playing some old classics. He wants Chloe to be unique, not just follow the crowd like her parents want. Next, Uncle Dusty offers a few very old films for her to choose from, but Chloe picks a cheaply made chick flick. Despite his reluctance, they head to a trendy, magical cinema known for its state-of-the-art viewing experience. Rumor has it someone once went mad after just watching a test scene here and had to be wheeled out. Uncle Dusty dismisses it as a marketing gimmick. As they talk, Chloe is busy on her phone sending emojis. Uncle Dusty disapproves and chimes in, asking her to just use real words. She laughs, saying she had made a custom emoji just for him, a smiley poop. Clearly, Uncle Dusty is old-fashioned. They use Chloe's card to buy 2 tickets and 3D glasses. Once inside, Uncle Dusty disdainfully throws the 3D glasses in the trash, proudly pulling out his own conversion glasses, which turn 3D into 2D. He hates 3D movies, so he always carries these with him. Chloe thinks they're ridiculous and doesn't want to wear them. She mocks him, saying why he will watch a 3D movie in 2D and people will laugh at them. Uncle Dusty tries to convince her not to care about others' opinions and to stay unique. She rolls her eyes but reluctantly agrees. Chloe finds their seats while Uncle Dusty buys snacks. The cashier looks bored as she lists the menu. Uncle Dusty cheerfully asks for an extra-large bucket of popcorn. Meanwhile, the 2 girls from earlier are still mocking him, saying an old geezer like him should be in the theater showing silent films. With snacks in hand, Uncle Dusty notices the cinema manager flirting with Chloe. When he arrives, the manager quickly gets lost with his smelly butt. Chloe's friends join them. They were the girls mocking Uncle Dusty at the counter earlier. Uncle Dusty, annoyed, whispers to Chloe that he thought tonight was just them. She dismissively explains she brought them to help her win over the cinema manager. She asks his uncle to do her a favor and sit in the back. Grumbling, Uncle Dusty takes a seat in the back, next to a cosplayer wielding a big sword. The movie is about to start, and everyone puts on their 3D glasses. Chloe pulls out the 2D glasses, and her friend mocks her. Embarrassed, Chloe tosses them to the floor, pretending they aren't hers. Uncle Dusty stubbornly wears his glasses, muttering that this is bound to be a lousy film that would never be narrated by Daniel CC Movie Channel. The movie begins and the crowd cheers, leaving Uncle Dusty feeling out of place. Halfway through, he notices something strange moving on the screen. Chloe's friend is texting in the front row, and Uncle Dusty leans over, scolding her to turn off her phone. An argument ensues, with Chloe stuck in the middle, embarrassed. She asks her friend to just mute her phone, which she does reluctantly. The cinema manager makes a round with a flashlight, and Uncle Dusty, still suspicious of his 2D glasses, notices something weird again. He asks the cosplayer for their 3D glasses, but is denied. He then asks Chloe to try his 2D glasses, but she's had enough, snapping at him not to ruin everyone's fun. Feeling hurt, the chubby uncle returns to his chubby seat. Suddenly, he sees a dark tentacle slithering out of the screen, alien-like and spiked. Shocked, he yells out, and the GPS tentacle turns toward him. Uncle Dusty drops his 2D glasses in fright, and without them, he can't see the tentacle. He scrambles to pick them up, and when he puts them back on, the tentacle has grown a mouth and is about to swallow his chubby head. Panicking, he rips off his glasses, jumps up, spilling popcorn everywhere, shouting that there's a real monster coming out of the screen. Everyone thinks he's crazy, laughing at his cluelessness about 3D effects. Uncle Dusty doesn't care and insists there's a snake-like tentacle trying to eat his smelly part. He just wants to leave this dangerous place, urging Chloe to come with him. The manager and the staff drag him out of the theater. Left with no choice, Chloe follows him to the lobby. The manager explains that it's just the magical cinema's special effects, designed to make him feel like he's really there, and that he can't make a scene over nothing since no one else feels uncomfortable. Chloe suggests his 2D glasses might be the problem. The manager realizes Uncle Dusty isn't using the cinema's glasses and blames them for the issues. But Uncle Dusty won't listen, claiming that this place is wrong and he wants to leave. Chloe sides with the manager, deciding to stay and finish the movie. She accuses her uncle of making her look bad all night, trying to make her as weird and isolated as he is. She just wants to be friends with people her own age and fit in. She tells her uncle to go home for Mama and she will take a cab home alone. She then storms back into the theater. The manager suggests Uncle Dusty cool off in the projection room and then leave with Chloe. Reluctantly, he agrees. Entering the projection room, Uncle Dusty notices a projector emitting an eerie purple light. The manager tells him not to worry and to wait for Chloe here. The manager tries to make a conversation, saying that he heard from Chloe that Uncle Dusty is a film buff and asks him if he had seen lots of movies. Uncle Dusty, a bit shy, admits it's true. 2 staff members are working in the room. One asks Uncle Dusty if he had seen Arrival of a Train. Uncle Dusty, confused, replies he hasn't. The other staffer chimes in saying it's the world's first short film, and back then people thought the train was really coming out of the screen and ran away screaming. Uncle Dusty realizes they're mocking him, but stays silent. The manager continues praising the Magic Cinema's unique experience. The manager hands him a pair of 3D glasses, encouraging him to try something new. Uncle Dusty seems tempted, but glances at Chloe and refuses. Seeing he's stubborn, the manager and the others drop the act, revealing themselves as white-eyed monsters. They grab Uncle Dusty and push him towards a nail. In the chaos, Uncle Dusty takes the chicken wrap from his pocket and shoves it into the manager's mouth. The wasabi-laden wrap is too much for him, and it's clear these monsters are connected. When one suffers, they all do. Uncle Dusty uses the distraction to escape for his chubby life and tries to find Chloe, just as a GPS tentacle slithers past her stinky feet. All the cinema staff, now revealed as monsters, receive the manager's signal and prepare to corner Uncle Dusty. He manages to hide in a supply closet, locking the door behind him, and calls Chloe. Seeing it's Uncle Dusty, she impatiently hangs up. Outside, the manager and his crew are calling Uncle Dusty's name, having guessed his hiding spot. With no other option, Uncle Dusty texts Chloe, asking her to put on the 2D glasses. She retorts him angrily. The monsters leave after hearing no sound. Uncle Dusty sends another message, apologizing, admitting he was a jerk before, but she's his only friend, and he's afraid of losing her. He writes the message and then sends an emoji. Seeing that he's changed, she smiles, forgives him, and puts on the 2D glasses. Suddenly, she's shocked. The screen is filled with tentacles injecting something into the audience, turning everyone into monsters. They chant in unison, urging her to embrace the extraordinary experience and join the tentacle baptism. The crowd surges forward, grabbing Chloe. Chloe grabs the big sword beside her and tries to escape, but she's outnumbered and pinned to a seat, about to be forcibly assimilated. As the main tentacle approaches, she swings the sword and stabs it in the throat. Instantly, all the transformed people in the theater feel the pain. Chloe breaks free, smashes through the projection room window and crawls out thinking she's escaped. But then she finds her uncle tied to a chair. The manager, holding an axe, captures her too. Chloe begs the manager not to hurt her uncle. The manager argues the tentacle creature hasn't harmed anyone. Before it came, he was a lonely man. The creature united everyone, making them one so that no one would ever feel alone again. He explains that the creature's core is inside the projector, glowing with a strange purple light. He puts glasses on Uncle Dusty, attempting to assimilate him with the tentacle creature. Fortunately, Chloe breaks free at the last moment, grabs a knife nearby, and plunges it into the creature's body. All the monsters in the room collapse in pain. Chloe rescues Uncle Dusty, and they start to leave. The manager rises again, declaring the world is changing and those who can't adapt will die. He extends a tentacle from his mouth, wrapping it around Chloe and dragging her closer, intending to assimilate her directly through his eyes. Through the manager's eyes, Chloe sees an alien invasion from another dimension. Her eyes begin to turn white. Uncle Dusty quickly grabs an axe and kills the manager, then pulls Chloe to escape the cinema. At the entrance, Chloe stops and says it's too late. They have nowhere to go. It seems she has also been assimilated. Uncle Dusty tries to snap her out of it, but she says she's finally free and that the world has changed. Everything is fine now. Behind them, all the cinema-goers who had been assimilated emerge. Unable to accept it, Uncle Dusty opens the door to see fire and chaos outside, with screams of terror filling the air. The world outside has already fallen. Chloe urges Uncle Dusty not to leave, saying it's lonely outside, and asks him to stay and finish the movie with her. A rift opens in the sky, and a giant tentacle descends. Even though Uncle Dusty doesn't want to submit to the alien creature, he also doesn't want to lose Chloe. She begins to sing, pulling Uncle Dusty closer to the crowd. In the end, Uncle Dusty sits with her, puts on the 3D glasses, and joins everyone in their unity. In this story, while it appears to be about aliens parasitizing humans to control Earth, it actually reflects how people accept new things, or rather, how new things impact people's lives. Uncle Dusty represents the old guard, believing that the old classics are the best and rejecting all things new. He repeatedly urges Chloe not to follow trends blindly, to be unique. But young Chloe sees it differently. She feels that if you don't follow the crowd, you'll be outdated, unable to fit in, lacking common ground with others. Resisting the trend is equated with loneliness. Ultimately, Uncle Dusty, afraid of losing Chloe, is forced to conform. The third story begins with a little girl, Sue, sitting by the TV watching her favorite cartoon. The Time Warrior is the hero who defends the Earth's timeline. He locks the evil Overlord in the time prison. The Overlord, frustrated, declares he still has his ultimate weapon and he'll be back. Having defeated the Overlord, Time Warrior shares some inspiring words. Sue, his biggest fan, chants along with the TV that the greatest power in the universe is between your ears. The episode ends, but the entranced Sue begs her mom for one more. She promises just one more episode she'll do her homework. And so, about 11,000 episodes later, Sue has grown up. Inspired by Time Warrior, grown-up Sue is now an eccentric anime nerd and a physics student, still procrastinating on her thesis, just like her childhood homework. A semester passes, and she's still stuck. Her professor, tired of excuses, advises that even the most gifted must act to change the world. If she doesn't submit her thesis by midnight tonight, she won't graduate. As soon as the professor leaves, Sue gets a call from her mom, excitedly planning to bring Grandma to Sue's graduation ceremony. Desperate, Sue returns home to work on her thesis. With only 8 hours until midnight, she's barely written the introduction when she hears a thud behind her. She turns around but sees nothing. Then, the doorbell rings. As she gets up to answer, she steps on a round object, returning it to the shelf. The clock on her desk flickers and goes into standby mode. Opening the door, Sue finds her best friend Alex, who brought his thesis along. Learning she hasn't started, he panics, reminding her she won't graduate if she doesn't finish it. A gust of wind blows, and Sue imagines how great it would be if she had a time machine to place a completed thesis in her drawer in the past. She opens the drawer, but it's empty. Alex, frustrated, retorts that even with a time machine, she'd still need to write it first. Sue changes the subject, pointing out a mistake in Alex's thesis and discussing a plot from Time Warrior. Confused, Alex asks if that is a cartoon. He has no memory of it. Sue tells him not to joke around, saying if Time Warrior erase her memory or something, she will show him now. Just as they open Sue's laptop, a loud noise erupts from outside. It's a knocked-over trash can, and the stench fills the room. Sue ignores it and continues searching for Time Warrior online, but nothing comes up. There are 404 errors everywhere. Even her Time Warrior figurines on the shelf are gone. Frantic, they turn the room upside down but find nothing related to Time Warrior. Sue calls her mom, but even she doesn't remember. It's like the show never existed. Heartbroken, Sue decides to bike 4 hours in the rain to confirm with the anime company. Alex stops her, urging her not to ruin her future over a fictional character. Just then, a flash of light and a stumbling Time Warrior appears, saying history needs their help before collapsing. Back inside, Time Warrior explains he's from the future, and tonight, something will happen here that puts the future in grave danger. He's traveled back to prevent it. Alex thinks the guy in the cosplay is crazy and suggests calling the police, but Sue, a diehard fan, believes it's the real Time Warrior. Time Warrior uses his gadget to impress Alex. Although it's a cartoon, the show inspired a generation to pursue science, including the inventor of the time machine. Proudly, Sue looks at Alex and asks Time Warrior why the show seems to have disappeared and why even her figurines are gone. Time Warrior looks worried, saying if the show has vanished, so will he in the future. They must go back in time to find out why. Sue and Alex join the quest to restore the timeline. Excited, they travel back 4 hours. Their first trip lands them outside Sue's house, where Alex is at the door ringing the bell. They hide in a bush, and Time Warrior gives them invisibility bracelets, making them undetectable and allowing them to connect to his gauntlet. From their hiding spot, they see Alex rehearsing how to greet Sue, then suddenly sniffing himself for that foul smell. Sue opens the door, and they sneak in. They realize that the gust of wind that blew the door open was caused by their entrance. In Sue's room, they see her figurines are still there, meaning the timeline hasn't changed yet, and the show still exists. Outside, Alex still remembers the show, prompting Sue to wonder if Time Warrior really erased his memory. But Time Warrior assures her that it's impossible because the memory eraser is right here in his pocket. However, now it's gone. The foul smell fills the air again. It turns out to be the Overlord who's stolen the memory eraser. He laughs maniacally, saying that he had waited so long for this moment and telling them to meet their doom. Just as they're in danger, another Time Warrior appears, grabs the Overlord, and disappears into thin air. Now they understand. The smell wasn't from Alex, it was the Overlord all along. But how is the Overlord here? During the second time travel, Alex in this timeline is suddenly surrounded by 2 versions of the Time Warrior and the Young Squad, the group from their first trip and the group from their second. This time they hide behind a trash can and see Alex sniffing himself, wondering where the foul smell is coming from. Behind him, the Overlord is using the memory eraser to wipe his memory of the Time Warrior. The trio immediately moves to capture the Overlord. Peeking through the window, they see their earlier selves inside the room. While the first group is spying on Alex, the Overlord steals their memory eraser. The scene from the first trip plays out. Time Warrior confronts the Overlord. Just as the Overlord is about to attack the first group, the second Time Warrior charges in and stops him, disappearing along with the Overlord. Feeling a bit like they're in a time loop movie, the duo assumes the Time Warrior has successfully captured the Overlord. Suddenly, the Time Warrior comes crashing down from the sky, knocking over the trash can. The Overlord is back in the room, destroying the figurines and wiping the show from the internet. With Time Warrior unconscious, Sue puts on his gear, determined to change the past herself. In the third time travel, they land on Sue's bed just as Alex arrives. Sue places the memory eraser back on the shelf, but the time-traveling Sue quickly snatches it. She then swaps it with a toy before the Overlord can erase Alex's memory. The Overlord's memory eraser turns out to be a Barbie toy. Sue and Alex wrestle with the Overlord, instantly traveling back to the rainy night when the Time Warrior first appeared. Finally, Time Warrior captures the Overlord again, thanking the Young Squad for leaving a note to warn him. Sue, confused, says she didn't leave any note. Time Warrior shrugs, saying he might have left it himself. Time returns to its proper course. Alex's memory and Sue's figurines are restored. Time Warrior prepares to take the troublemaking Overlord back to his base, but Sue hesitates. She doesn't understand why the Overlord targeted them. Time Warrior tells her she's a scientist and will understand in time. Meanwhile, the Overlord sneaks around, leaving his ring behind with a wicked grin. After bidding farewell, Time Warrior and the Overlord disappear into the time stream. Afterward, Sue sits on her bed looking dejected. Alex reminds her to start working on her thesis. Sue is unwilling to let it go, arguing that so many unbelievable things happened tonight. They traveled through time, joined the Young Squad, and helped the Time Warrior. How can they pretend none of this happened? Still caught up in the excitement, she wants to play a little longer. Then, she spots the Overlord's ring, which holds all of the Overlord's powers. She finally has another excuse to meet Time Warrior again. She must return the ring to the time base. Despite Alex's objections, Sue drags him along. Expecting a futuristic wonderland, they find themselves in the 1990s, as indicated by the style of the guard's sneakers. They tell the guard they're there to return the ring to Time Warrior. Seeing the ring, the guard becomes unusually polite and invites them in, saying he'll deliver the ring to Time Warrior himself. Inside, they discover that the Time Base is actually the anime company that created Time Warrior. All these people are from the future, working to inspire children from the past. Sue then spots the creator of Time Warrior and excitedly asks for his autograph. Upon hearing her name, the creator's eyes light up. Confused, Sue watches as he leads her to a portrait. It's a picture of her, with a caption below saying that Sue is the inventor of the time machine. It turns out that after graduating, Sue becomes a brilliant physicist and invents the time machine. Back at the Time Warrior's base, they sense that the signal from the time prison holding the Overlord is becoming unstable, as if it's about to disappear. Inside the prison, the Overlord continues to laugh maniacally. It seems that he has used the endless time at his disposal to devise a way to escape. Meanwhile, Alex learns from a time travel expert at the base about the rules of time travel. Even though people can travel back, time itself continues to flow. It doesn't stop. This means Sue only has half an hour left to complete her thesis. If she doesn't finish it, she won't graduate. And without graduation, she can't invent the time machine. If that happens, everything will vanish. This is the Overlord's plan. He's exploiting Sue's love for fun and her procrastination to collapse the entire timeline. Elsewhere, a guard delivers the ring to the Time Warrior, but the Overlord from the past travels through time, snatches the ring, and throws it to his future self in prison. The Overlord seizes the ring and successfully escapes. The timeline begins to fracture and the world is on the brink of collapse. In a flash of inspiration, Alex realizes that if he can stall the professor, it will buy Sue more time to finish her thesis. The three split up. The Time Warrior waits outside the professor's office, but is immediately caught up in a battle with the Overlord. Meanwhile, Sue frantically types her thesis. Alex tries to distract the professor, but fails, so he triggers the fire alarm instead. Time is running out and the Time Warrior's powers are weakening. The Overlord thwarts Alex's plan and kidnaps him. Everything seems lost. The timeline is about to collapse and Sue must return to the teleportation pad immediately. If she doesn't make it back in 30 seconds, the teleportation pad will vanish, trapping her in the past forever. As Sue steps onto the teleportation pad, a time paradox occurs. Everything about the Time Warrior is about to disappear, including the time machine. To return to the present, she must erase this memory, effectively resetting the timeline to its original state. This creates a bug in the logic. Sue hesitates, unwilling to erase the memory. Time Warrior, however, serves up another classic piece of inspiration, telling her she's special and she can accomplish the unimaginable. The greatest power in the universe is between her ears. Encouraged by Time Warrior's words, Sue finally decides to take on the burden alone. She erases her memory and returns to the present. She wakes up at her desk, holding the memory eraser. It's the afternoon of the day she needs to turn in her thesis. The doorbell rings. It's Alex with his thesis. Their conversation plays out once more. Sue says if she invented time travel, she would put a finished thesis in her drawer. She then opens the drawer, and there is indeed a document inside. She opens it, only to find a note telling her to write it herself. The fourth story begins with Andrew, a timid and introverted high school student whose dream is to become a game tester at Twilight Company. Every day, he uses his time at church services as an excuse to sneak into the town's only arcade and play games. Like all seasoned players, he isn't chasing a spot on the leaderboard. He's aiming to crash the game, achieving a score so high that it causes the system to collapse. Amy, a fellow student, is captivated by his skilled gameplay and approaches to make friends, but Andrew, annoyed, brushes her off, saying he's close to achieving his goal. Yet, just as he hears Jess calling, he turns around, enchanted by Jess's smile, and gives up the chance to crash the game. Jess, an arcade employee, brings him a letter from Twilight Company. It says his submission was excellent, but the game he reviewed was outdated. They suggest he reviews a newer game next time. However, their town is so remote that there aren't any new games available. Just as Andrew runs out of tokens and is about to head home in disappointment, he spots a machine labeled Polybius, which spits out a token. This catches the attention of 3 people, including Jess, who has never seen this machine before. Amy suggests it's a new game on a trial run, placed in a corner to collect player feedback before release. Excited at finding a new game, Andrew grabs the token and prepares to play, only to be stopped by a boy wearing a head brace who warns him that the machine eats tokens. Jess dismisses the annoying boy and shoos his smelly butt away, offering to fix the machine and telling Andrew to come back tomorrow. Afterward, Andrew heads to gym class at school. His friend in fat named Chubby complains about the school bully always picking on people. The bully conveniently shows up and even invites Chubby to join him in the naked showers. Seeing trouble, the timid Andrew ditches Chubby, ignoring his pleas. After school, Andrew returns to the arcade to play that mysterious game, Polybius. Amy follows closely, watching him play. The moment he inserts the coin, the machine emits an eerie green light. It turns out to be a maze game, where players must desperately avoid the Overlord's pursuit to score points. As the game progresses, it speeds up, and the fast-changing scenes mesmerize Andrew, drawing him deeper into the game. Night falls without him realizing it. An angry Chubby arrives at the arcade to flex his chubby body, clearly having gone through something traumatic. Furious at being abandoned, Chubby accuses Andrew of betrayal and changes the high-score name on the screen to Although Jess steps in to drive Chubby away, Andrew, humiliated by the message, flees the arcade. The next day, the school news reports that the boy with the head brace has been found dead under mysterious circumstances at home. Amy, carrying a dead mouse, finds Andrew, planning to prank Chubby, whom she dislikes. Andrew, however, isn't on board and scolds her, telling her to mind her own business and keep a low profile at school. That night, as Andrew is about to write his review of Polybius, his computer screen flickers and suddenly displays the game screen. He frantically unplugs it, but the monitor reflects a large, green-eyed monster behind him. He grabs a toy lightsaber and approaches cautiously, only to find nothing there. Just as he relaxes, a pair of grotesque hands pulls him into the screen. The monster is devouring Chubby's smelly parts but spares his greasy muscles. Andrew wakes up with a start. It was just a nightmare. But strangely, the power cord is actually unplugged. During gym class, he notices a totem from the game on his neck. When he opens Chubby's locker, he discovers Chubby's dismembered body stuffed inside, with the same totem on his hand. In just a few days, 2 murders have occurred on campus, both involving people who played that game. This leaves Andrew deeply unsettled. He tries to tell the police about the strange arcade machine, but his ramblings about game monsters and nightmare totems make them dismiss him as a game-obsessed teenager. However, a man standing nearby listens closely. He stops Andrew and asks if he's told anyone else, and if he knows anyone else who's played the game. Then he invites Andrew to come with him, claiming to have a stash of arcade tokens in his car. Andrew, thinking the man might be a human trafficker, uses his escape skills and hides in some bushes, where he sees the man getting into a police car, indicating that the man is an agent. Back home, Andrew tries to collect his thoughts, but his father insists he do his bedtime prayers. Suddenly, Andrew remembers a story about Polybius from the Bible. He rushes to the arcade and finds Amy and Jess. Amy shows a totem on her waist. She explains that she tried to beat Andrew's score and ended up playing the game all day. Afterward, she had a nightmare and woke up with the totem on her body. Andrew explains, in a lost biblical text, there was an angel named Polybius who inspired artists to create beauty in God's name. Yet all credit went to God, which made Polybius jealous. Out of spite, Polybius had his portrait painted. When God found out, he branded him with the mark of death and cast him out of heaven. Since then, Polybius has wandered the burning labyrinth of hell, possessing artists and bringing disaster to those who listen to him, marking them in the night and sending their souls to hell. Understanding dawns on Andrew. This isn't just some random curse. He believes the game machine is Polybius, cursing anyone who plays it. Tonight, it will come for their souls, and the agent man seems to know something. Amy and Jess dismiss his theory, suggesting it's more likely a government experiment. At that moment, the supposedly broken arcade machine flickers back to life, forcing them to believe him. Andrew decides they need to destroy the machine. If they can't, they might not survive the night. They divide the tasks. Andrew apologizes to Amy for scolding her at school. Amy, noticing Andrew's affection for Jess, encourages him to confess his hormone feelings. Emboldened, Andrew cheerfully goes to find Jess, but discovers the arcade owner unconscious on the desk. Jess reveals he knocked her out to search her room for information about the game machine, uncovering that she had visited many places. Before they can process this, the agent man sneaks into the arcade. Seeing his suspicious behavior, the 3 decide to knock him out and tie him up. The agent man tells them they can't escape. He reveals that the game was created by a software company in 1978, and that in just 4 years, 32 people mysteriously died. The CIA couldn't explain the deaths and has been trying to cover them up ever since. They find a photo showing the arcade owner was the programmer who created the game. While they are still in shock, the owner suddenly appears, kills the agent man, and ties up the 3 friends, preparing to feed them to the Overlord. The arcade owner was once the most talented programmer, having developed many classic games. Often, inspiration would just appear in her mind. It was almost as if the games created themselves through her. Over the years, she had been feeding the Overlord with these deadly games because she had also been branded with the mark. If she didn't help the Overlord find food, it would devour her smelly parts instead. She turned on the arcade machine, releasing the Overlord. Just as it was about to consume Andrew, Amy courageously distracted the Overlord, saving Andrew but getting her soul trapped by the Overlord in the process. Meanwhile, Jess seized the opportunity to grab the arcade owner's gun and dragged Andrew out of the arcade. They ran for their shitty lives. Outside the arcade, Andrew witnessed Amy sacrificing herself to save him. Determined not to run anymore, he realized there was no escape from the Overlord. Tired of fleeing, he decided that if he was going to die, he would die fighting the Overlord. Better to face it head-on than to keep running. He pleaded with Jess to join him. Jess called him crazy, saying he didn't want to get killed. Seizing what could be his last chance, Andrew confessed his hormone feelings to Jess. Hearing this, Jess ran even faster than a Tesla bike. Left with no choice, Andrew returned to the arcade alone. He found the game machine at the center of the maze and tried smashing it with the gun he picked up, but it had no effect. It only woke the Overlord. Just then, Jess returned, deciding to fight alongside Andrew. Since destroying the machine was impossible, they decided their only option was to crash the game. Jess handed Andrew the last coin. They had just one chance. The two split up. Jess focused on distracting the enemy while Andrew aimed to max out the score. With his exceptional skills, Andrew's score skyrocketed. As Jess reached a dead end and was about to have his soul absorbed by the Overlord realized its base was being attacked and rushed back. When Andrew's score hit almost the highest, the Overlord began to drain his soul. He was just 1 point away from crashing the game. Enduring the excruciating pain of his soul being pulled away, Andrew made one final move with the joystick. The score hit 1 million, and the game finally crashed. The machine exploded, causing the Overlord to vanish, and Amy's soul returned to her body. The arcade owner, armed with a shotgun, tried to attack them, but Amy knocked her out with a baseball bat. The 3 of them, barely alive, escaped the arcade, swearing never to play another game again. The next day, Andrew went back to school and used a photo of the 3 of them to cover the old leaving school date on the notice board. Then, he bravely walked up to the school bully. The story ends with a message. Life is like a maze game. It's tough and unpredictable. No matter what, the end is inevitable. We can choose to live in fear, hiding in the shadows until our days run out. Or we can choose to stop merely surviving and try to enjoy life. It's not an easy choice, especially when it involves breaking old habits and making significant changes, but it's worth it. The 5th story begins in a futuristic world where the NSA uses a unique method to monitor the entire world, and all the credit goes to a NSA supercomputer named Bob. But this time, Bob has failed. A terrorist attack on a city subway has resulted in mass casualties, and the perpetrator has managed to escape. Bob can't sense the criminal's location, and his brain is overwhelmed with frustration. Dr. Jane is a U.S. military psychologist stationed in Afghanistan. Her daily job involves providing psychological counseling to American soldiers. Today, she's finally on her way home for some well-deserved rest, eagerly looking forward to seeing her wife and child. Apparently, Jane's child is adopted. As she prepares to return to the States, she is intercepted by NSA agents. As is customary, they don't tell her where they're taking her or why. Soon, they arrive at a highly classified NSA location, the Black Site Indigo. The NSA director gives Jane a tour of the facility, which handles massive amounts of data daily, analyzing and processing it to enable real-time monitoring of the US and the world. On the building's lower level, there's a vast warehouse filled with thousands of servers. Handling the data here would be impossible with just people or machines, so the NSA enlisted the help of a super analyst. Everything was going well until 10 days ago, when this analyst experienced an emotional disturbance that severely impacted its performance. To protect U.S. national interests and global peace, they called Jane to provide psychological counseling for the analyst. Jane is puzzled, not knowing why she was brought all the way from Afghanistan just to give therapy to a tech nerd. Entering the isolation room, she is even more stunned to find that the analyst is a gigantic brain, NSA's supercomputer Bob. Bob's caretaker explains his situation. In simple terms, the NSA created a massive human-like brain, fitted it with countless circuits and sensors, and used its human-like cognitive abilities for constant surveillance of everyone, everywhere. Bob had already figured everything out. He immediately accessed Jane's records and knew that she had been brought in to provide psychological counseling for him. Bob insisted that he didn't have any psychological problems and didn't need a doctor. However, the director challenged him to track a man. Suddenly, Bob, the supposedly all-knowing superbrain, began to glitch. It turned out that the man was the bomb terrorist behind the subway bombing at the beginning of this episode. Realizing this, Bob had no choice but to admit he needed psychological help. As he spoke, a thick layer of slime oozed from his brain, creating such a disgusting sight and smell that Jane became nauseous and vomited on the spot. Back in the office, the director showed Jane a video the bomber had uploaded to social media. He was a textbook case of an antisocial personality, even packaging his bombs as Christmas presents to kill more people. The NSA had no idea when or where the next attack would occur and needed Bob's analytical abilities. Jane suggested that the NSA find someone else since she couldn't face that meaty superbrain. The NSA director had great faith in Jane. She was the only one out of 2,100 military psychologists who had volunteered to extend her deployment time without taking a single day off. Jane had exceptional professionalism and psychological endurance, making her the only one who could handle Bob. After some persuasion from the director and the others, Jane reluctantly agreed to try to counsel Bob. Later, Jane called her wife and daughter, apologizing that she likely wouldn't be home for Christmas. Her daughter was disappointed, saying grown-ups always lie. Her wife also sounded disheartened. As soon as Jane hung up, Bob started reaching out to her, first via phone, then through the television, and finally even using a drone outside her window. This constant intrusion made Jane uncomfortable. She scolded Bob for invading people's privacy so easily. Feeling reprimanded, Bob retaliated by playing tricks on Jane. He activated the fire sprinklers in her room and locked her in, forcing her to spend the entire night soaked. The next day, the director and others waited for Jane in the isolation room. On her first day, she was already late. After waiting for 50 minutes, Jane finally arrived, her hair still wet. She didn't mention Bob's prank from the previous night and got straight to the session. Curiously, although Bob was all-knowing, he seemed particularly confused when it came to tracking the bomber. The last time he monitored the bomber was on a subway in New York. The bomber bought some food and clothes, and then Bob lost track of him. A system error message indicated that the location was undetectable. Understanding the situation, Jane realized Bob's emotions were highly unstable, showing signs of both anger and sadness. Bob admitted feeling a bit sad, but quickly changed the subject. While they were talking, Bob suddenly informed the director that he had detected a terrorist and had guided a bomb to kill him. Afterward, it was reported that 3 civilians had died. This was a typical day at work for Bob, always on high alert. Jane diagnosed him with anxiety caused by work pressure, leading to selective blindness. In other words, Bob did have a psychological problem. Jane then pressed him on the issue of killing innocent civilians. Bob defended himself, claiming he hadn't killed anyone. He had only provided information to the NSA. However, it was Bob's intel that had led to their deaths. Bob became agitated, arguing that death was a normal part of life and that people died every moment. Jane pressed further, asking if this bothered him. At this point, Bob suddenly lost control and yelled at Jane, then shifted the topic to Jane's wife and daughter. He hacked into their home security cameras and displayed a live feed of them decorating their Christmas tree on Jane's computer screen. It became clear that Bob wasn't just a superbrain designed to assist the NSA with complex calculations. He had developed human emotions. He could feel love, joy, anger, and sorrow, just like any person. With Jane's gentle guidance, Bob began to recall what he had seen on the subway that day. Through the footage, everyone could see the bomber eating, but Bob had seen much more. He had seen the stories of the people around the bomber. Each passenger had their own sad tale. For example, a woman told her little sister that Santa Claus wasn't real, calling it a grown-up lie. While it might have been a beautiful lie, the child learned the truth. And this was just one subway car, in one city. Every second, countless tragedies unfolded worldwide, and Bob saw all of it. These overwhelming feelings of sadness were clouding his abilities. As Bob spoke, he seemed to unlock something within himself and finally traced the bomber's location. He was on another subway. But just as he announced this, Bob began to overload and short-circuit. By the time the director and maintenance team arrived, Bob warned them that it was too late. The bomber had placed on a subway car a Christmas gift box, actually a time bomb. Suddenly, an explosion rocked the Chicago subway, killing countless civilians. Bob could sense the identity of each person who died and feel the grief of their families. The massive surge of negative emotion caused Bob to lose his supercomputing abilities. As he tried to reboot, it was already too late. After this incident, the government decided to suspend Bob, effectively shutting him down for good. Even though Bob had human emotions, he was still fundamentally a super bionic computer, and shutting him down would be akin to sentencing him to death. With this decision, Jane no longer had a reason to stay. As she was packing up to leave, Bob's caretaker approached her, saying that Bob wanted to see her. After the conversations they'd had over the past few days, Bob now considered Jane a friend. In many ways, Bob had more human feelings than most people. During their final conversation, Bob confessed he genuinely wanted to help everyone, but he just couldn't. His biggest wish was for Santa Claus to be real. Jane was moved by his sincerity and went to see the caretaker, asking him to reconnect Bob. The caretaker was stunned. It would mean directly disobeying the authorities' orders. But after Jane's impassioned plea, he decided to help Bob fulfill his last wish. They returned to the control room and powered Bob back on. Since the NSA had officially fired Bob, he was no longer bound by their rules. This meant he could do anything he wanted on the internet. Bob first commandeered a fleet of delivery drones from a logistics company to send Christmas presents to people. Then he paid off debts for the poor and even helped lost dogs find their owners. In an unexpected turn, he also managed to track down the bomber. Following Bob's lead, the police successfully captured the terrorist. Just then, the director showed up and ordered Jane and the caretaker to shut Bob down. But Bob was now beyond their control. He could only be turned off voluntarily. The director asked Bob how much his little Santa Claus stunt had cost. Bob replied, "Not much, just about $200 billion, but he also solved the US government's economic problems by giving the stock market a major boost. Even Trump called him a genius." Bob then set some conditions. He demanded that Jane and the caretaker not be punished. The director refused, but it was no longer up to him. It was up to Bob, who had now taken control of all of America's nuclear weapons. The director panicked and complied. Bob had one final request: to have an eggnog party in his room. The joy of the gathering spread to Bob. After all his wishes were fulfilled, the government decided to shut him down completely. Despite his contributions to the country, this supercomputer had become a threat to the US. The director asked Bob if he thought it was all worth it. Bob replied that at least tonight, Santa Claus was real. In the end, Jane was blindfolded and escorted out. Bob's last wish was to send Jane home. When the blindfold was removed, she found herself standing at her doorstep, where she indeed reunited with her family. The sixth story begins with Val, a teenage girl addicted to the internet, particularly skilled in FPS games. However, her father doesn't see gaming as a legitimate career. He arranges for her to work at a company, and although Val agrees, the moment she leaves the house, she grabs her gaming gear and hops into her boyfriend's car. The two had already planned to attend a gaming tournament that day. The competition has a $10,000 prize. If Val wins, she can move out and become a full-time professional gamer. Her boyfriend reminds her of today's news, saying the gaming legend Roy is also competing. Roy is a big deal. He ranks at the top of the leaderboard every season and frequently graces the covers of gaming magazines. In any competition he enters, he always comes out on top. It seems Val's dreams are in jeopardy, but she remains confident, declaring that she's going to beat Roy. In the first round of the tournament, Val dominates, quickly climbing to second place, right behind Roy. Just as their scores are neck and neck, Roy takes a sip of Pulse energy drink and pulls off an incredibly stylish backstab, eliminating Val. She is stunned by how formidable he is. After the preliminaries, Val advanced to the finals with a second-place finish. She's amazed by Roy's fast reflexes. She clearly had the upper hand, but he turned around and took her out in a second. Her boyfriend comforted her using words only but not muscles, saying that it's fine and she's already amazing since she had made it to the finals. Just then, Roy walked over and taunted her that she would never beat him. Val and her boyfriend were both angered by his arrogance. The boyfriend urged Val to beat that cocky guy in the finals tomorrow. As they headed to the car, a middle-aged man suddenly appeared behind Val and bluntly said she's going to lose again tomorrow, but if she wants to win, there is a way. He then handed her a business card, telling her to come to this address and she might find a pleasant surprise. Val was bewildered. That night, Val returned home, only to find her father waiting for her in the living room. She hadn't gone to the job her father had arranged for her, and he was furious. Val admitted that she had been at the gaming tournament. Her father, displeased with her unproductive hobby, told her to go see his friend the next day to see if she could still get an interview for the job. But Val couldn't agree to that. The finals were the next day, and she was determined to win. She insisted that if she wins, she'll earn $10,000. Her father wasn't completely against her gaming, but he couldn't tolerate her lying and berated her for only thinking about herself. A heated argument broke out between them, with Val snapping back, calling him an old stubborn man and blaming him for why her mom left. Later that night, as Val lay in bed watching the replay of the day's matches, she grew more suspicious. Something didn't seem right. She glanced at the business card the mysterious man had given her. Curiosity got the better of her, and she decided to check out the address, which led her to a place called the Gold Saucer. It was late, but the arcade was still packed with players intensely focused on their games. Val approached the man and asked why he had spoken to her that way earlier. The man simply told her to sit down and play a game first. The game was extremely challenging, with a screen filled with bullets that seemed impossible to dodge. Val died in seconds on her first try. The man then opened a bottle of energy drink and handed it to Val, telling her to drink it and try again. Thinking he was joking, Val hesitated, but he insisted, unscrewing the cap. The sound caught the attention of the other players around them, who turned to watch. The man poured a small capful and told her to take a sip. Val drank it, and suddenly, it felt like the whole world had slowed down. The previously undodgeable bullets now seemed easy to evade. Her skills skyrocketed, and she cleared the game in no time. Before Val could celebrate, her consciousness snapped back to reality, and she found herself sitting in a restaurant, having a meal with the man. He explained the pulse energy drink to her in detail. When she drinks it, it extends time. She'll feel like the whole world is moving in slow motion. But there's a side effect. The more she drinks, the more powerful the effect, but the longer she loses consciousness. Just now, she drank a little and was out for an hour. It's like blacking out from drinking too much alcohol. What's more, she has no idea what happened during that time, but her body can still function normally. The man wanted to sell her for $500 a bottle. Val thought that was a lot of money and pointed out this was cheating. The man replied, "It's cheating, but so what?" Just then, Roy called the man and ordered a whole crate of the pulse for tomorrow's match. The man added that sometimes only magic can fight magic. The finals began. Both Val and Roy came prepared with the pulse. Val took a sip, and the world instantly slowed down. Her score shot up rapidly. Noticing something was off, Roy took a big gulp, and his score surpassed hers. Val downed an entire bottle in one go. It was now a matter of who dared to go further. In the end, Val defeated Roy and won the tournament. She happily embraced her boyfriend, celebrating her victory. But before she could enjoy it for long, the effect of the drink wore off instantly. Val suddenly found herself years in the future. Because she had drunk so much, it had taken all this time for her consciousness to return. Dazed and confused, she realized she was holding a child. Her boyfriend approached, and Val, still in shock, rushed downstairs, only to find two older children there, calling her Mom. It turned out that Val was now a mother of 3. No, wait, there was another one on the way. Unable to accept this reality, Val stepped outside and saw chaos. The world looked like an apocalypse. It was now 2029, 12 years since Val had last played in that championship. The government and society had collapsed, and the remaining survivors had banded together to fight off the threats of a post-apocalyptic world. Suddenly, a woman approached, calling Val sheriff. Nearby, a man was being dragged out of a tent, looking completely bewildered. He was one of the despised Pulse returnees, just like Val, someone whose consciousness had only just returned after drinking large amounts of the Pulse energy. Val's boyfriend angrily confronted the man, blaming people like him for the world's destruction. Apparently, years ago, the US president had drunk too much Pulse and, in an unconscious state, had pressed the nuclear launch button, bringing about the end of the world. Now, the survivors held a deep hatred for these Pulse returnees. The confused man was banished from the camp, left to face the deadly death lizards on his own. Still struggling to process everything, Val dared not reveal that she too was a returnee. Back home, she found her father's ashes. He had died in 2020, and she had known nothing about it. Realizing things couldn't get any worse, Val decided to face reality. But as it turned out, reality was harsher than she could have imagined. One of the camp leaders reminded Val that it was her turn to work. Val wasn't just the community sheriff. She was also the sanitation chief, toilet manager, guard, and laundry worker. She had to do it all. In a flash, Val had gone from a carefree girl to a full-fledged homemaker, responsible for every task imaginable, at least mentally. Days went by, and Val gradually adapted to her new life. One night, as she walked through the camp with her 2 children, her daughter gave her a portrait she had drawn. Back home, Val noticed the TV was on and connected to a game console. It was family game night, a monthly tradition. Her boyfriend had spent all afternoon peddling a generator to charge the battery. Seeing the game she had missed for so long, Val's eyes lit up. She offered to play with the kids for a bit. Her boyfriend reminded her to play for a short time, as she still had to do guard duty later that night. Val and the kids started playing, but she got so engrossed that she forgot all about her guard duty. After some time, her boyfriend rushed in, saying there was trouble outside. They ran to the camp entrance and found the camp leader dead. Earlier, he had been chased by the death lizards and had fled to the gate for help. With Val absent, he was killed right at the entrance. Val felt a deep sense of guilt, but she still had to finish her shift. Later, Val became confused and frustrated with her current life, wondering why they were constantly so busy. Her boyfriend comforted her, saying, "That's just how it is in the apocalypse." She had done a great job as a wife and mother for the past 12 years unconsciously. Sure enough, Val felt she had no idea what she had done all those years. The next day, Val left a letter for her boyfriend and walked out of the camp armed with gear. In the letter, she explained her true situation, that she was also a Pulse returnee, and her consciousness had returned only after that gaming tournament. In the wasteland, Val soon found the man who had been banished earlier. He had already been killed. Following the address in her memory, Val arrived at the gold saucer, still connected to electricity after all these years. The man who had sold her the Pulse energy was still there, unchanged. The man was shocked when he learned that Val's consciousness had only returned last week. Val accused him of ruining her life with his drink. The man shrugged, saying complaining to him wouldn't help now and he couldn't give her a refund, but he could offer her a free jumbo-sized bottle of Pulse. Life is short, and out there she has to face the apocalypse. So why not down this bottle and play her favorite game one last time? Val took the jumbo bottle of Pulse energy and sat down at the game machine. As she did, she accidentally pulled out the drawing her daughter had given her. She realized that life is short, and some things, once missed, can never be regained. Coming to her senses, Val returned to the camp. Her boyfriend was on guard duty. Val apologized, saying she didn't want to miss out on anything anymore. She claimed that a week ago she was only 19 kissing him at the tournament. But now she'd suddenly become a mom of 3. She showed him their daughter's drawing. Her boyfriend was moved, but suddenly gunshots rang out in the distance. He told her the death lizards were coming. As it turned out, the so-called death lizards weren't mutated creatures, but humans. There were too many attackers this time, and the camp residents had to evacuate. Realizing what she needed to do, Val decided to help. She told her boyfriend to lead everyone to safety in the valley while she stayed behind to confront the death lizards. She gave her last words: if they see a flare, it means she has defeated the enemies. If not, go as far away as they can. After saying her goodbyes, Val opened the camp gate, prepared her weapons, and chugged the entire jumbo bottle of Pulse in one go. Val stood alone in the square, ready to confront the attackers. To her surprise, the leader of the death lizards was none other than Roy. The two rivals glared at each other, their old enmity resurfacing. Once, they fought online. Now it was time for a real-life showdown. Roy taunted Val, saying he would find her family and friends and devour them all. Determined, Val smashed the bottle of Pulse on the ground and fired at a nearby gas canister, causing a massive explosion that blew the death lizards to pieces. Fueled by the effects of Pulse, she single-handedly defeated every enemy. Using the last of her strength, she fired the safety flare into the sky. This is Daniel CC Movie Channel. Stay safe and enjoy your day.